You're watching VinylicPumaGaming. Hey guys, back with another Borderlands 2 countdown, and I figured that today we could go over some of the best guns, weapons, and gear from Maya the Siren. Now, to keep things interesting, instead of picking the same best guns and weapons in the entire game, I figured we could go over weapons, items, and other gear that are really good or are best on Maya. Now, this isn't to say that overpowered guns like the Unkempt Herald or Pimpernel won't appear in this video, however, I want to highlight weapons you may not be too familiar with. Maya tends to specialize with SMGs and as a sort of a support or healing type character. Now for this video, I will mostly be focusing on picking good weapons for her SMG specialization, as well as going over some other weapons that you may find that you might like. But without further ado, these are the top 10 best guns, weapons, and gear for Maya the Siren in Borderlands 2, starting now. Number 10, the Seraphim. The Seraphim is a good but somewhat difficult to use assault rifle from the Pirate Booty DLC. I think you're going to find that this particular weapon is relatively weapon part dependent, where other assault rifles aren't. Ultimately, a dull stock on this assault rifle is absolutely required, or you're going to drive yourself nuts. You may also find that you want a deep or accelerated accessory on your Seraphim as well, since it has pretty slow projectile speed. Otherwise, the Seraphim is similar to a dull E-Tech assault rifle with better critical hit bonus and much better ammo consumption. This combination of unique effects should make the Seraphim outperform the vast majority of other dull assault rifles that the player can come across. And unlike E-Tech or other dull assault rifles, the Seraphim is locked and only comes in fire element. Honestly, this is a shame since the Seraphim would be a great assault rifle to have come in several elements. At the very least, it would be more valuable than it currently is. As far as Maya is concerned, her Accelerate skill really helps this weapon's inherent damage capabilities, plus Phase Lock makes hitting enemies on target a whole lot easier. If you want a Seraphim, you can buy it from the Seraph vendor in Oasis. Thankfully, you can keep returning to the Seraph vendor to get the ideal version that you want before you spend those hard-earned Seraph crystals. Number 9, the Sloth. So the Sloth is an often overlooked sniper. After all, with snipers like the Pimpernel, Lyuda, Morningstar, Cobra, and Hawkeye, these snipers are generally more sought after for whatever reason. I expect a lot of that has to do with the fact that the Sloth is a dull sniper with mandatory burst fire, which is certainly a bit of a turnoff for most people. There is also some issue with the Sloth's inherently slow projectile speed, which is a pretty big sin for a sniper rifle. After all, the point of sniping is lost if your bullets travel too slow to hit targets at a distance. However, thanks to Maya's Accelerate and her Phase Lock ability, you're going to have a much easier time delivering all of these projectiles of death to an enemy's critical hit spot. Generally, 1 or 2 volleys is usually enough to kill whatever is in front of you, both for normal and badass enemies. Otherwise, the Sloth is actually fairly decent, if not above average when it comes to base damage when compared to other sniper rifles. And like almost all the other unique weapons, the Sloth is a quest reward for completing Rackaholics Anonymous. Now, you will have to choose between the Sloth and the Ruby. Ultimately, because the Grog nozzle surpasses the Ruby now, you may find that the Sloth is a more viable option. Number 8, the Hellfire. I don't mean to get off topic here, but have you guys noticed that the vast majority of Maliwan legendaries, other than the Norfleet, only seem to come in one element? Think about it. The Volcano is only fire, the Thunderball Fist is only shock, the Pyrophobia is only fire, and of course the Hellfire is only in fire, but I digress. Now, while the Hellfire is a limited SMG, I would say it's going to be one of the better SMGs for Maya from the base game. Otherwise, you have to choose between the Babymaker, which I would argue is going to be better on either Axton or Krieg, the Slagga, which is good on all characters and is meant for slagging, or the Emperor, which is generally considered to be the lesser of the 5 legendary SMGs in Borderlands 2. Obviously, you're going to have some alternative options if you have all of the DLC for Borderlands 2, but if you're just stuck with the base game, I'd say the Hellfire is a really good choice for an SMG. In my experience, the Hellfire tends to be a fairly damage over time heavy weapon, which should serve you fairly well early on in the game, and I don't think it's particularly detrimental later on in the game. While I ultimately think other SMGs I will feature later on in this list are definitely going to be better than the Hellfire is still a really good SMG. If you want a Hellfire, it can be acquired by killing Scorch either during a Digistruct Peak run or in Frostburn Canyon. Number 7, the Maggie. So the Maggie is probably the best legendary Jacobs weapon in Borderlands 2. The Maggie is typically overshadowed by the Unkempt Herald, and it's not capable of quite as high DPS as the Herald. However, it's still a phenomenal pistol. Compared to other legendary pistols, I would say the Maggie is better than the Infinity, the Thunderball Fist, the Gub, and possibly even the Hornet. The Maggie is a shotgun in pistol form and is Borderlands 2's spiritual successor to the Masher pistols from the very first Borderlands. The Maggie will be providing you with about 6 shots at the cost of 1 bullet, while the twofer or the double accessory versions provide you with 10 shots per trigger pull. However, one of the Maggie's problems is recoil, which can make it a little unwieldy in some tense situations, especially if you're trying to get bullets off as fast as possible without missing. Thankfully, Maya's phase lock makes hitting enemy targets much easier, and as long as you're aware of your surroundings, you should be able to pretty easily unload into various enemies' critical hit spots. In Borderlands 2, you can receive this gun upon killing McZafford during or after the Clan War Zaffords vs. Hodunks sidequest mission. Alternatively, you could decide to kill the Hodunks to receive the Slaga SMG, which is a really good weapon as well. Both the Slaga and the Maggie are great weapons. Number 6, the Conference Call. Now, at the end of the day, there are a lot of really good shotguns to choose from in Borderlands 2. I ultimately decided to go ahead and go with the Conference Call for Maya because I think it's a little bit better than the Butcher is, and the Interfacer simply consumes way too much ammo to be practical on Maya. Now, there's also the Heartbreaker, but I think that's ultimately going to be a gun that's better suited on Krieg. So that's why I'm ultimately going to go with the Conference Call here. At one time, the Conference Call was considered by many to be the best gun in Borderlands 2 when it was combined with the B-Shield. Of course, the B-Shield got nerfed and is no longer the ridiculously overpowered weapon that it used to be. The player base ultimately kinda turned on this weapon as a result. Even though it's not as good as it once was, the Conference Call is still a really good shotgun thanks to its abnormally high critical hit bonus. And due to the nature of how the Conference Call's projectiles work, you will find that this shotgun is pretty decent up against mobs and also really excels up against some of the larger enemies in the game. For example, you may find this to be a perfect companion for your Sandhawk up against bosses like Terramorphous or Son of Cromarax. If you want a Conference Call, the only way to get it without DLC is to kill the warrior and see if he drops it. If you have the Dragon Keep DLC, you can also simply defeat the Handsome Sorcerer and receive it that way. Number 5, the legendary Siren. Provided you don't have any DLC for Borderlands 2, this is going to be the best class mod available for Maya. I tend to use the legendary Siren as my main class mod whenever I play Maya, as it's really good for reducing the overall cooldown time for phase lock. As far as percentage boosts go, the legendary Siren boosts cooldown rate and gun damage. I actually didn't realize this before, but the legendary Siren's special effect is that it boosts movement speed while phase lock is active, so this may prove useful in some combat situations. Otherwise, the skill bonuses provided here are pretty nice. Ward is great if you plan on using the B-Shield or if you just want better shield capacity and lower shield recharge delay. Otherwise, skills like Accelerate, Mind's Eye, and Foresight are great for slightly boosting your DPS, as the combination of these skills help improve gun damage, reload speed, magazine size, and overall fire rate. The only lacking skill here is Flicker, which is less useful in later difficulties. However, you may find that it's more useful in earlier difficulties. There are several ways to get this class mod. You could receive one from fighting Vermivorous, which is usually the more reliable way to get it, or if you have DLC, you can kill Pyro Pete, Veracitus, or the dragons to get this class mod as well. Otherwise, I've also found that on OP8 difficulty in particular, you can actually chest farm for these, and it's a fairly reliable source. Number 4, the Bitch. While the Bitch is overshadowed by a few of the DLC SMGs in Borderlands 2, the Bitch is probably going to be the best SMG you can acquire without any DLC for this game. It sports decent damage and fire rate, however it also has quite good critical hit bonus as well. It's also one of the highest maximum accuracy Hyperion weapons available, so once you get it going, you can snipe from across the map with it in earlier difficulties. Acquiring it can be a bit of a bear though, since you will have to farm the bunker, but if you've got a spare 0 around, you should be able to perform some quick boar kills, and that will make the farming process much easier. Plus, you can also get a sham from the bunker, so it's worth going there for just that alone. My main issue with the Bitch is to really get the most out of it, you have to score consistent critical hits. Unlike SMGs that I will be going over later on in this video, you need some decent skill in order to get the maximum damage potential out of this gun. What I will say though is that phase lock does make using the Bitch a little bit easier. Bitch SMGs can come in all elements, and while it isn't my number 1 SMG for Maya, the Bitch is a phenomenal SMG in Borderlands 2. Number 3, the legendary Cat class mod. If you plan on using SMGs on Maya, I would say the legendary Cat is absolutely essential, especially in some of the game's higher level areas. The boosts to SMG damage here are fairly significant, as an optimal version of this class mod at OP8 will provide a 138% damage boost to SMGs while decreasing their accuracy by about 36% or so. This pretty much means that any SMG you have will have its damage effectively doubled. Keep in mind that's before you even spec your character. As for the boosted skills, most of them boost a lot of attributes that contribute to better DPS. You're going to be getting a lot of gun and critical hit damage bonuses, reload speed bonuses, fire rate bonuses, and magazine size boosts here. You're also going to get faster bullet speed thanks to the boosts provided by Accelerate as well. Ultimately, if you're using this class mod, make sure you put 5 points in Mind's Eye, Wreck, Accelerate, Reaper, and Foresight, as the bonuses provided by these skills are awesome. This is the definitive class mod for any sort of SMG build for Maya. The boosts provided by this class mod are truly substantial and should massively increase your effectiveness with SMGs. If you want this class mod, you will need to be level 62 and you can kill tubby enemies in order to occasionally receive this class mod. You will need the Digistruct Peak DLC. Number 2, the Tattler. There is often a lot of debate between which SMG is better, the Tattler or the Sandhawk SMG. Honestly, if you ask me, I recommend that you acquire both for your higher level Maya characters. While the Sandhawk is much easier to get and arguably works much better with the B shield, the Tattler is still a really nice SMG that is extremely consistent in the sense that it always spawns with the same fire rate and always spawns with a blade and can come in all elements. For that reason, I think you're going to find that it's a lot easier to farm for specific variants of the Tattler than it is to farm for perfect Sandhawks. However, you do have to kill Hyperius, so there's that. While the Tattler is a really nice gun on all characters, I've found that I prefer it on Maya. This is because I think Maya can correct most of the Tattler's flaws with some of her skills. Skills like Wreck, Chain Reaction, and Converge work really well with the Tattler, and provided enemies aren't pulled in close enough to get slagged by phase lock, Reaper will help soften them up a little bit. And you'll find that Accelerate corrects the slow projectile issue that the Tattler has. If you like Maya, I highly recommend that you go after this gun. Farming multiple variants of a Tattler is simply going to be a lot more practical than it is to farm for perfect Sandhawks in every element. And finally, number 1, the Sandhawk. For all the Maya fans out there, this gun isn't going to be too much of a surprise. The Sandhawk, when combined with the B shield, is easily one of the most overpowered weapon combos in Borderlands 2. With the matching Bone of the Ancients class mod, a legendary Cat class mod, and a B shield, the Sandhawk can obliterate most mobs in 1 or 2 hits, and will also allow you to go toe-to-toe with most raid bosses as well. Even without the B shield, the Sandhawk is a great SMG and will deal a ton of damage to enemies, though you will find that the B-Hawk combo is going to utterly destroy almost everything. The only real issue I have with the Sandhawk is that the projectiles tend to move fairly slow as they travel on most characters. If you're playing Maya, you're going to want to spec for Accelerate, and you will also want to go ahead and acquire a Sandhawk with the flying prefix, as that is going to be the version that contains the accelerated accessory. This should make hitting most enemies much easier outside of phase lock. And it's also worth mentioning that you will want a dull stock on your Sandhawk as well. That way you can bring the burst count up to 4, which will allow you to improve your DPS over the standard 3 burst count version. The Sandhawk can come in all elements and is pretty easy to get as long as you're willing to play through the Captain Scarlet DLC a couple times and complete the quest called Whoops, which is one of the main quests for that DLC. The Sandhawk is an amazing weapon on all characters, however it's probably going to be best on Maya. With the proper gear backing it up, B-Hawk Maya is extremely powerful. Alright guys, that's going to wrap up this particular video. If you like this video, please be sure to leave a like, click the bell to join the notification squad, and as always, take care, and I'll see you all next time.